Looks like we're live. This one's an extemporaneous, spontaneous. I didn't really anticipate doing this today. I've been watching this for a little while, primarily because there's been a big argument over whether Putin and Russia are going along with the New World Order and the WEF and all of that. And of course, I've explained that this entire thing in that country over here, right, that they're in right now. Uh, I personally don't think that it's just a ploy that Putin's doing for the WEF and the world reset. Hi, Roosevelt. This was just real quick. And you actually might be able to add some expertise into this because I'm not a financial guy. And so maybe you can help me through this. But as I've said, the preponderance of evidence suggests to me that Putin is not playing the Klaus Schwab game. He's done some things with the GMIs. It's a different type of thing in Russia, but regardless, there's been some game playing there. But there have also been some things that I'm looking at that lead me to believe that he really is pulling out and away from the Anglo-American Alliance and the WEF and the Great Reset. And I've talked about that a little bit over the last few weeks. Well, just now, I mean, I've heard this was coming, but today it's been verified that the Russian central bank is using gold to back the ruble. That means that they're out of the. I'm not saying they can't use a digital system still, but to back it with gold seems to me to be directly contrary to everything that the UN, the WEF, the International Monetary Fund, the US, and everybody else has been trying to do. I think this throws a cog in the wheel, and to me, and you might help me out here, Roosevelt. To me, it seems like this is the seal. I'm not talking about the seals in Revelation. I'm talking about the seal that Putin really is at odds with the Great Reset that's being pushed by the WEF, the American Anglo Alliance, the U.S., etc. That's what this says to me. That he really isn't playing their game. So I thought I would come on. I'm glad Roosevelt's here. Uh, I'm not saying Roosevelt's in finance, but Roosevelt has a lot of insight into those types of things. I'm not a financial guy. I admit it up front. That's one of the last things that I ever want to get involved with. For sure, Ted Ted Tuttle's for sure the petrodollar is dead. As of today, we already knew that anyway was coming because Russia's only accepting payments in rubles. China's only accepting most payments in yuans, wans or yuans, however they say that. In India, in the ruples rather, rupee. Anyway, so there seems to have been this schism in this attempt to bring everybody into this great reset, and it looks like the BRICS primarily has, in fact, pulled out and thrown a cog in the wheel. And this thing with the gold standard in the Russian central bank says to me that, yeah, Putin is really not playing the game. He's actually doing his own thing, and he's trying to counter what's happening in Davos and in the United States. What they've been trying to do. U.S. is going out. Biden has done his job. He's taken the U.S. out. I see that Trump now is saying, not that I give Trump a whole lot, but financially wise, he seems to be pretty good. He says that the Biden and the Democrats, and of course the entire situation, including his OWS, has now made the United States on a path to a third world nation, and that's exactly correct. So anyway, has anybody got any insight on this? Who might want to say, how you look at this situation with with Russia now going to a gold standard. Russia was given no choice in this matter since the U.S. This is Roosevelt talking, and I kind of understood this, Roosevelt. I knew this was the case because of the way the West had cut off everything. But this seems to be, to me, to be obvious now that Putin is not in on the WEF game. And Roosevelt says here, Russia was given no choice in this matter since the U.S. and its allies cut them off from the IMF. Yes, and I realize that. So yeah, they would have to go that way. But that was apparently. I mean, they weren't willing to do it before this situation with Ukraine. So, to me, it seems like Putin's taking advantage of the entire system to pull away from it because the Western nations are going to go into the pit now. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. I don't think that they can. I don't think they can sustain themselves on this fairy tale. I mean, this digital system that they're throwing together, that they're ready to use, to me, seems no better really than the fiat system. Other than they can control and know what you're buying, when you're buying, control your movements and all those things. But as far as its volatility, I don't see it being any different. So I guess my point is, Roosevelt, does this signal to you? I realize they didn't have any chance or any other choice, but does this tell you? Okay, you say whether Russia is part of a great reset play could go either way. Collapsing the West financial system gets us there. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And doing this with the gold standard in Russia, the Russian central bank certainly, again, puts another arrow into the Western financial system to take it down to get the Western system into the Great Reset. But Russia's not going to be playing the game in the end. Neither is China, apparently. Neither is India, and neither is Brazil. Whether South Africa will come back into that little thing or not, I don't know. But would you say, is anybody else here? Would you say that? And of course, you can continue to talk about it, Roosevelt. Does this is Am I correct saying that this seems more to be that Putin is not aligning with the WEF and this whole Great Reset thing? I mean, it's still going to cause some different economic systems to develop and use. So Russia is economically self-sufficient. Let's see, New Genesis Connection says that. Yeah, especially with their alliance now with China, the very thing that we didn't want to do, push China and Russia together to work together, has now happened. It's like I said, our intelligence community is our most dangerous domestic enemy, and it looks like they're continuing down that line. How do you like the fact that, you know, the CIA officer, one of the ones that signed off on this thing with the laptop being Russia disinformation, has now admitted that he's happy that he kept uh, Trump out of office. That just shows you what these people are like, and I'm not certain that that rises to the level of election interference, but it certainly shows the the state of the intelligence community and how corrupt it is. Okay, Roosevelt says, I fear the game plan is to collapse the West. Yeah, that's going to happen anyway, but now Putin's kind of buoyed up his system, right? And merge it into a new Eastern alliance that is already communist totalitarian. Eastern alliance. When you say Eastern alliance, what do you mean by that? Um, because that certainly wouldn't be Russia and China and India. That Eastern alliance, it wouldn't be that. Are you talking about the Eastern alliance with? Sorry, I just got done with a 4 mile run, so I'm a little out of breath. Yeah, Russia has very. Molly Madison says Russia has very little global debt. I knew that. Okay, Roosevelt. Russia is communist and allied with China, so Russia getting so powerful is not great news for the world. Well, Russia's not really communist anymore. Um, I think they pretty much decided that was all done. 2 decades ago. They haven't. They probably haven't made the entire switch over yet, but I don't think they have a whole lot of. The communist side of it is certainly done. I mean, that's been dead and buried for some time. China is communist for certain, But I don't think Russia is really interested in going back to that. I don't see that, Roosevelt. I really don't. Okay, let's see if there's Eastern Alliance, China. Okay, so you're talking about China, Russia, Iran, and India. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I can see that. And again, that kind of goes also in line along with, at least to some extent, the BRICS. Um, but I take issue with Russia being communist. I don't think they have any problem. China is really, I mean, yeah, it's a communist system, and they run it like a communist system. But in effect, they're great capitalists at this point, right? I mean, in one way, I mean, right now they're having some serious problems with their economy as well and their currency and all that. But even though they're communists and they act like authoritarians and totalitarians, uh, their their financial and marketing system is really closer to capitalism. Um, One of Putin's associates said the dollar is worth less than a candy wrapper. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Belt and Road Initiative and all that. I agree. Okay, so is Russia? Do I consider? I've heard a lot of people talk about Russia. Roosevelt just brought it up too. Russia is still a totalitarian state. You know what? When I compare Russia to the United States, I think the United States is more of a, at this point in time, is more of a totalitarian, authoritarian government than Russia is. Uh, I know there are arguments both ways, but you look at what transpires here, especially. I mean, it's one thing if you're in a country and you don't have the First Amendment. It's another thing when they say you do and then they don't let you exercise it. So I've got some suspicions. I've got some feelings that really uh, Russia is not as totalitarian as the United States at this point, and probably hasn't been for some time. Certainly, Russia has not been the empire builder that the United States and the Anglo-American alliance has been. So I don't look at Russia as being a totalitarian regime in the same vein as the U.S. I think the U.S. is actually a much more of an example of that now. Okay, let's see. Yeah, let's see. It says Putin. I don't know when that was. Fox Mulder. I seem to recall something about that ban holding family church services at home in Russia. I think that had to do, however, with the situation with the Jehovah's Witnesses more than anything else. If I remember the situation, it was quite a few years ago. Um, they're very Russian Orthodox. That's what he's pushing. And I'm not saying that state religion's a good idea, but let me give you a little background, okay? I'll give you a little background. And the Mormons aren't going to want me to talk about this, and they'll say, no, no, it ain't true, it ain't true. Yeah, it is. Uh, the Mormon missionary program has been used by the CIA. I know that for a fact, okay? And because of that, especially in South America, some South American countries got upset and started to restrict Mormon missionary activities. And the same thing has happened in other countries in the world. So my feeling on that, I'm not certain about the details, but Putin, if he did that, it was probably because of the fact that they recognized that there were some CIA activities going on there, and I wouldn't doubt that that was the case. So they're still free to gather and to have services, but probably not in individual homes. I don't know all the details about that, but considering what Soros has done and what the CIA has done using like the Mormon missionary program, things like that, I wouldn't be surprised if Putin realized that there were some things happening in there. And then the Western press and the CIA said that he was suppressing religious exercise of religion, and in fact, he may not have been at all. I don't know, but knowing how the CIA and our Western media works, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Let's see. Sandy Aaron says there's another type of communism. Those types say Jesus was a communist. Stephen Banoon's wife talks about it, and she was raised in a communist country. Yeah. No, Jesus. Yeah. Um, as a matter of fact, the Dead Sea community at Qumran was considered a communal community. I mean, that's almost a double thing there. But communism doesn't necessarily mean um, having all things in common, having no rich among you, that kind of thing. And I mean, no rich among you. That's the ideal. But of course, in its practice, that's not how it ends up. At least not in political situations like in China, Russia, or even here in the United States. Under the situation we have now. So uh, while they tout that as being the goal, the utopia. Of course, it never works out that way because you have evil men who are using the system to their advantage. But yeah, uh, early Christianity would be very similar to the communist idea as far as there being nobody being richer than somebody else, or if they were, that they would freely give of their riches to help others. But that's another subject. I probably shouldn't get into that because it gets kind of complicated when you try to associate Chinese communism or Stalinist Leninist communism or Marxism with Christianity. It really isn't the same thing. It really isn't. Yeah, that's true, Russ. With communism, the sharing is forced; it's involuntary. Where Christianity, right, in the early church, you would consecrate to that, and you did it voluntarily. That's correct. That is a difference too. Yeah, and Roosevelt, I don't mean to be praising. Yeah, Roosevelt says here, imagine how far gone the U.S. is that people are actually praising Russia over the USA. It's a sad state of affairs, but our government has lied and infringed on the rights of the people, has stolen from us, has killed us, has experimented on us, has used us for their own gain for so long. I'm not saying that Russia doesn't do the same thing, but the difference is that Russia didn't claim to be the bastion of civil liberties. We did. And because of that, you know, that's why I've said, and I'll say it again, this is the most evil country in the world right now. We may not be having, a million Muslims stuck in prison camps like China does and things like that, but we have more prisoners in our prisons overall than even China does over silly stuff. And Biden has done that with sending drug users into prisons, all for them to get money out of the taxpayer to run those prisons, and then that goes back in their coffers, their private coffers, just like when they send money to these places over here, supposedly for humanitarian aid, and those are all organizations owned by the politicians of this country that then get to pocket that money. It comes back to them. So yeah, we are really in a bad shape, and I'm upset that I am so pissed off at this, but they brought it on themselves, and they are totally 100% guilty of these crimes and corruptions. So I will have to praise Russia if in fact Putin is standing against the WEF and the Great Reset and the New World Order, which now it looks like he is, in my estimation. Yes, I do have a lot more respect for the Russians than I do for these AHs over here that lie as a matter of course when the telling the truth would help them better. They'll still lie because that's what they are. Did I get upset? Yeah, because I spent 28 years thinking that I was going to be able to help save freedom and liberty, for our posterity, and they lied to us. They all need to be hung. Sorry, wrong term. They all need to be hanged. Yeah, Mormonism was United Order. Yeah, which really wasn't communism either in the sense of the term. Again, it was voluntary, sort of. Actually, it was voluntary, but once you got in, it could be pretty austere and pretty controlling. There were some problems with it. Yeah, to commune is different than political communism. I think that's a good way to put it. Lisa D's Grace. Lisa D's Grace. Yes. Okay. The U.S. is a failed state. Well, it certainly hasn't been a constitutional republic for over 100 and, well, probably since the Civil War, but certainly by 1871, it hasn't been what it claims to be. But they still lie about what they are. No, I know that, Fox Mulder, but see, that's the problem. Uh, don't tell me to wake up, Fox. Don't tell me to wake up. All right. If you're an intel operative and you want to save your country, you might just go to something like this. Okay. What Fox Mulder is saying is, and I already addressed this. Vladimir Putin is one of Klaus Schwab's young global leaders, just like Justin Castro. Wake up. I don't need to wake up, okay? Stop telling me that. That's an insult. That's a freaking insult, and it pisses me off. He may have gone in there to find out what was going on. Why is he now on the gold standard? They don't need to do that to sink the petrodollar. They don't need to do that. There's something else going on. And his invasion of Ukraine, while it could have been a distraction or whatever, he's also exposing the biolabs and the WEF by doing it. I don't ever want you to tell me to wake up again, Fox, or you're out of here. Do you understand me? That's an insult. I hate that term, wake up. You know what? I don't know how old you are, Fox, but I've probably known about this stuff before you were born. So have a little respect. Our government right now, as it stands right now, is totally Luciferian. Do you understand that? I don't know that Russia is. I don't think so. The Russian Orthodox Church has a lot of power there. We have a lot of good people in this country. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the institutions. And look at what they're doing. Now they're actually talking about killing babies after they're born. Yeah, I do remember Lavoy Finicum, I do. Yeah, Sarah Brown, I think that's a good point. Sarah Brown says, I don't like the fact that Russia is stronger, but I'm not going to pretend like it's not true. Compare Biden, and I know that they're puppets. Is Putin a puppet? I'm not so sure anymore. Um, you know, it's like other people have said. There are strong men in Russia, but they're not perverts like this whole damn system is now. Listen, look what's coming out right now on the child love situation. Look at what Cawthorn, is that his name? Who called out saying, look at all the degeneracy in Congress. And then you have Christian ministers out there being agents of this corrupt, evil government. I tell you what, it's I'm just. So anyway, the KGB should take Biden out for demanding Putin be removed from office. That would be a bad idea, Rick. That would be a bad idea. The CIA will probably take out Biden. Yeah, I don't think the KGB would touch that. They're not going to do that. Our own government is the ones that take out our leaders, not the Russians. And I don't want to say down with the USA. I wouldn't go that far, Christopher Cook. The problem is none of the institutions take it seriously, And I'm not saying it's because the people don't take it seriously, but we've elected people, hopefully they do the right thing, and they didn't. And there was nothing in the Constitution to hold their feet to the fire. Not really. And that was the problem. Well, yeah, Truth 2022, China does the same thing. There are a lot of countries that do that. That's been the case with a lot of countries. Let's see what Roosevelt says here. The best hope is focused on fixing the USA, our own communities. It's too late for that, Roosevelt. It's done. It's over with. You can't fix the whole USA. That's done. That's over with. It's never going to happen. And the pockets, the communities, the county, the small, the towns, the cities, the counties, possibly the states. Well, they're going to have to get some real cojones to do that. Because if you try it right now, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, because you should, but you're going to have the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, you're going to have the IRS, you're going to have the DOJ crawling all over your butts. Just be prepared, because that's what it'll be when you try to pull away. Until the central government totally falls. Until it totally falls apart and can't even pay its bills or pay its enforcers to do their job. And that is going to happen, because we are marked for balkanization. The central government will be destroyed eventually, in one way or another. Do I think that's good? Well, there's no other choice now. It's like I've been talking about with the Assyrians destroying Israel. We've gone so far down the corruption hole that there's no possible way to save it. We're even killing our children now, or talking about it, and changing times and laws and doing these things to change their biology. We're so wicked, there's no reason to save us. There is no reason to save us. At least not in the configuration that we're in now, despite the fact that I wish we could have done it. And I tried to for 28 years. And they lied to me. And they spit on me. No, there's no way to focus on fixing the USA. It's too late. Too late. Black Tooth. You want some help in translation of Isaiah 45:7? Um, I'll just try to remember to look at that. I did the thing on the eighth day last night because it was bothering me so much. Hold on a second. I don't know when I'll be able to get to that. I thought I had a piece of paper here. Hold on a second. I can't give you any promises, but I'll take a look at the translation in the King James. It seems like there's something in the back of my head that tells me you're right, but that's happened on a lot of things. For instance, I went back and forth with somebody on Twitter today who's insisting that Jesus' name while he's on earth was Emmanuel because Isaiah said that, and that's not true. That's not true. So he was not known as Emmanuel as his earthly name. He was not. Absolutely, 100%. He was not. So think people get onto something and hold on to it, and you might be right. The translation might be questionable there. So I'll take a look at it and see. That's been the case in a lot of things. No, I do wish. Let's see. Roosevelt says, "I hate to say it, but if we don't start dealing with the U.S. through politics courts, it will take a civil war." I wish that would happen, Roosevelt, but it's not going to now. It's not going to happen. And I don't want to be a defeatist, but I saw what happened in Yugoslavia, and we're way past that. The only way that this can be saved now, and it's not going to be the whole nation, is if individual states withdraw. That's the only way. The courts won't do it. Politics aren't going to do it, other than it's like I talked about with Governor Cox of Utah last night. He's pushing some of this horrible stuff. No, it's we're gonna be in really bad situation. There's no way to win this now. It's too far gone, and I'll stand by that. And if Trump gets in, he will betray us again. I don't know. I don't know if Governor. And I'm not saying I have full faith and confidence in Governor DeSantis either. You know, I would trust him more than Trump, but we're in a stranglehold right now. I don't think we're even going to see. We might see elections this year, 2022. We might see them, but I'm not even sure that's going to happen. And I'm sure that the 2024 thing is going to be it's not even going to exist. We're done right now. You can get out. Look, the demonstrations don't work. You go in and you try to do this thing politically with elections, and they're stolen. The CIA is controlling all the and the NSA control all. They're saying they're doing it for the integrity of the elections. Yeah, for the integrity of their being able to win, for their corrupt system. No, I'm afraid we're done, Roosevelt. I don't see any other alternative. It makes me sad, but what can I say? The Great Awakening versus the Great Reset. Pick a side. Oh, you be careful with that. Cold steel. Be careful with that. You might find they're almost one and the same. I'm not even going to talk about the slap. That's so great. Yeah, they have fences and barricades in D.C. They don't in the Kremlin. We're done. We're done. Yeah, Washington D.C., London, and the Vatican City states, or the city states. Yeah, I know. If I ticked off Fox Mulder, I'm sorry, Roosevelt. We are all getting heated right now. I'm just really tired of people telling others to wake up. I'm just really tired of it, especially when they tell me to wake up. I get really upset about that. Like I told whoever that is, I was probably awake before they. I was probably well informed on all this long before they were born. I just don't like the insult anymore. I'm tired of it. Another reason why I get kind of pissed off that I'm even doing this still, because it doesn't really do any good. All it is a venting mechanism. We get to just spout steam because if elections, what's the old saying? If elections really worked, they wouldn't let us do it. Right? It's all a lie. Balkanization. If you're asking what that is, catch 22. It's what happened in Yugoslavia. That's where the term came from. When Tito died, there was a power struggle primarily along ethnic and religious lines, the Croats, the Bosniaks, and the Serbians. And it split the country up in places where they had those people living together as neighbors for decades, even generations. Once once the antagonism started, they were killing each other. Neighbors were killing neighbors, and it split the country up. I mean, Yugoslavia was split up into 6 different countries. So I think it's 6. I'd have to go back and count, but at least 6. Well, that's what's going to happen here, if it's even that good. Ignore the goobers. Thank you, Paula. Well, it's just, these trite little sayings that people think gives them some credibility. I'm just really tired of it. That's all. Well, that's nice of you to say, John. For every troll that has told you to wake up, there are 1,000 other folks that you've awakened. Well, let's just say that that we've had the discussion and that we're on guard. Not necessarily awakened, but on guard. We've had the discussion, we realized the difficulties, and we're on guard. Yeah, another point. Dan Good just made it. And this is what I was saying, Roosevelt. There's no way of fixing this. They're going. Did they actually confirm her today? Dan Good says, Roy, we got a Supreme Court nominee that won't even define a woman. I mean, the fact that she's even considered is absurd. There's no way to say this. It's done. Prep, pray, stay out of the way, and try to weather this storm because it's going to be one hell of a bad storm. We're already in it. Oh, Trump was right about that. The storm, yeah, and he started it. Well, it started a long time ago, but he poured gas on it and pressed down the accelerator. I think sustainable stewards. You're right. See, that's what I'm saying. We're doing those things. Sustainable steward says here, and I'm going to have to. He says, I'm not sorry for saying this. I agree with Russia outlawing the debauchery parades. I'll put it that way. Russia seeks to protect family and and here, yeah, you put it all together. But at anyway, yeah, we go along with all that, and the government encourages those things. We're done. We're done. Matthew Cawthorn, thank you, Vermont. I couldn't remember his first name. Yeah, Matthew Cawthorn, and he got burned by McCarthy, the House Minority Leader. What McCarthy? That's what I mean. At this point, all you have left is total destruction. Well, I understand that, Roosevelt. We don't know about Russia. Well, I think it's real obvious that when you look at the total picture, for instance, our promise that we wouldn't allow NATO to encroach any further on Russian territory, almost 30 years ago we promised that. When we've started these wars everywhere, when we're pushing um, debauchery amongst our people, endangering our children, I don't see any of that in Russia. Look at Lavrov compared to Blinken. Just that comparison right there. Now, back in the 80s, when all of this stuff with Russia started, I was warning people, Russia's not really going to become a liberty type of country. This is all a game so that we'll put down our defenses and then the communist Soviets will be able to take us over. I really thought that initially. But you know what's actually happened? Our own communists have taken us over, not them. No, I wouldn't go that far, Paula Hoskins. No, no, I wouldn't go that far. No, we're gonna have to break up. We're just gonna have to balkanize and try to survive as independent states, regions, or whatever. I'm not saying I'd want to go join Russia. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that and my whole point of this video is that the evidence now is almost overwhelmed every other possibility that Putin is actually standing. It looks like he really is standing against Schwab, the Great Reset, and the WEF. I don't think he's a part of it. And apparently China isn't either. They used China as the model, and now China wants to back out and go their own way. you know? There are prophecies that, and I'm not going to get into this too much, but there are prophecies that talk about the East will save the planet. There are prophecies about that. How viable they are, I'm not certain. Real BP Earthwatch says Russia is taking out the 51st U.S. state, Ukraine, the deep state. Yeah, I think so. See, I can't help but go along with you on that. I can't help it. It pains me to think that the U.S. can't be saved. There is one possibility that I'm aware of. One possibility, but I'm not sure that the it'll be possible to do. I you know I just don't know. Things are empty in D.C. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah. I grew up just outside of D.C. I grew up in Maryland, in College Park, Hyattsville. It's like a mile outside the D.C. line. University of Maryland's there. That's where I grew up. But yeah, Mike Flynn, the banksters will come out on top initially. In the end, though, they're going to be hunted down like animals, and their bodies left in the fields to be eaten by birds. That's where they're actually headed. Well, as it sits right now, D Express, who says if Russia fails, the NWO will go full dictatorship globally. As it stands right now, and I really don't have a lot of insight. I don't know what Xi Jinping is thinking, or Putin, or I don't. I'm not the insider of the game. All I can do is watch what's happening, and say this isn't going the way that Klaus Schwab and those people would like it to. I don't. I think that they're seeing that they're getting double crossed, and rightly so, because they're bastards. Uh, but I don't think Russia is going to fail, frankly. As it sits right now, they've been patient. In military operations, there are things called reconnaissance and force and feints, and there were Ukraine reporters and military claiming that Russia did a retreat out of Kiev, whatever they call it. That's not the case, because they were doing a reconnaissance and force and a feint, and that was to find out the strength of what Zelensky has around that city and the types of forces. The Russians weren't beaten there; they were testing the line. And it surprises me how people that don't know anything about military tactics, all of a sudden say, "Oh, we defeated the Russians; they're retreating." No, they're redeploying. They have the information now. They know what they need to know, and if they need to, they can act on it. Russia is bringing more military to the area right now. They're committed. Do I like it? No, I don't want to see all this destruction and death. I don't. But we caused it. We. What we have done here, what we have done as a nation, and we've done it more than once, but we've certainly done it here. We may not, what we did is we went and hired the killer. We went and hired the killer and told the killer who to take out. Under the law, we are as responsible for that murder as the guy that pulled the trigger. Actually, more so. As a nation, we've done that around the world, but we've done it in Ukraine now. And because, think about this. If somebody invades your home in a Democrat city and you shoot the intruder who may have been sent there by some other operative who's as guilty of this home invasion and this attempted murder as the person that tried to break into your home, and you shoot that guy, they want to come after you and say that you've committed murder. That's exactly what they're doing to Russia. NATO has threatened Russia, has tried to do a home invasion, most recently through Ukraine, And Russia said, no, you're not coming in. And they've shot the intruder. And now these buttholes want to say, you can't defend yourself. That's not right. You can't defend yourself against us. We're Democrat liberals. You can't defend against our corruption and our crimes. That's exactly the same situation on an international level. Yeah, am I hot? I am. In more ways than one, these lights are making me kind of warm in here. So, again, it looks like, even though I'm not a financial guy, my suspicions from most of the information I've seen here and from people I respect, Roosevelt being one and Jesse and others, that yeah, Russia going to, the central bank of Russia going to gold back the ruble is spitting in the WEF's New World Order's face. They're not a part of it. They've pulled back. That's what it looked like to me. So it looks like, hold on a minute. I don't have anything in the glass, but it looks like this is true again. All right, that's all I've got. I didn't mean to go this long. I didn't mean to get so hot under the collar. I'm just really disturbed that all of the people that have suffered and who have gone without to try to build liberty in this country here for themselves and their children has all been for nothing. That all of that they did was in vain. It hurts. I'll see y'all later. Thanks for coming.